talk. Let's get into the Big East order of finish. We've talked about this a little bit already, but let's just give our predictions. I think you're in position to run them down 1 through 11. We know the coaches' preseason poll went like this. It was UConn, Creighton, Xavier at number 3, Marquette at 4th, then St. John's at 5, Providence, Villanova, Butler, Georgetown, Seton Hall, and DePaul bringing up the rear. Paul, do you want to give us your rankings first, or do you want me to go?
You go this time.
Okay.
I did the schedule one first.
So I had UConn and Creighton the same as the coaches poll, 1 and 2. I had St. John's at 3 and Xavier at 4. So I moved Xavier down a spot from where the coaches had them. I have St. John's bumped up 2 spots into that 3 hole. And then I have Providence at number 5. And I have Villanova at number 6, which I think might come as a bit of a shock to you.
Interesting.
Marquette is 7th for me. I'm lower on Marquette than I think anybody is. I don't understand how, just because you have continuity, which I understand is like, it's a worthwhile conversation in the age of transfer portal and NIL, to be like, yeah, we're bringing back a lot of guys who know our system already. That's going to be good. But you basically lost your 2 best players, and not just your 2 best players, but the 2 players who kind of brought in that entire style of playing on the offensive end the last few years that made them so successful. I just don't understand how you get better or stay the same without bringing in any other talent. I mean, they made no new additions. They lost their 2 best players, and they're like, yeah, we're going to be as good or better. I don't understand that.
I am fully with you on Marquette. I did pick them a little higher in my order of finish here, but I'll continue on the Marquette kind of talk there. I'm not going to rehash what you said, because I 100% agree with everything you said. And what I will add on to that, and this feels like a flaming hot take, just given everything I've listened to in the last 2 weeks of, I think I've consumed every bit of national, Big East preview podcast.
You were on most of them.
But I think I've listened to or contributed to as much as I can of Big East preview content over the last 2 weeks. And the preseason player of the year or All-American hype or whatever it is, for Cam Jones, I know I'm doing a Xavier podcast here, but if you were at the end of the year were to tell me that Ryan Conwell had an equivalent or better season to Cam Jones, I would not be surprised. That's how high I am on Ryan Conwell. And I just wouldn't be shocked if that's where we were sitting here at the end of the year.
Yeah, I mean, between those 2 players, you have to give the nod to Cam Jones because he's done it in this conference already. And
agreed.
He's really good. Like, he's really
I'm just
good.
saying, like, if we're doing bold predictions here, Rick, I'm trying to be bold.
Paul, to your bold point, I'm not so, like, if I'm Xavier, I'm not making that trade right now. Even though logically I have to be like, yeah, Cam Jones deserves to be called the better player because he's already done it. If I'm Xavier, I'm not trading Ryan Conwell for Cam Jones straight up right now. I'm not doing it. I think Ryan Conwell's better. He has to prove it first, but I think he's better.
All right. I will do my 1 through 11.
Seton Hall, Butler, Georgetown, DePaul is my final 4. There you go.
Oh, okay. All right. Man, you have them in the final 4?
Seton Hall, Butler, Georgetown, DePaul. Final 4.
Final 4. Yes, got it.
Final 4. All Big East Final 4.
Got it. I will go 1 through 11. I say UConn 1. I'm not going to be the one that gives Danny Hurley any bulletin board material here, because he would listen and he'd find it. UConn, I'm going to have Xavier 2. I think Xavier finishes 2nd. Say Creighton 3rd, St. John's 4th. I'm really, really high on St. John's. I debated even flipping them and Creighton, but I feel like Creighton's so good. I'll keep Creighton there at 3, and St. John's 4th, Marquette 5th. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Marquette 5th. I have Providence at 6th, and this kind of rests on Bryce Hopkins being better than I'm afraid he might be, just coming off that ACL. But I'll say Providence is there at 6th. I say Seton Hall 7th, Butler 8th, Villanova 9th, Georgetown 10th, and DePaul 11th. I think this is it for Kyle Neptune. I think Villanova has.
So is that just you're so out on Kyle Neptune that you think he'll drag them down, or do you think the roster isn't very good either?
I don't think the roster is good enough to make up for Kyle Neptune.
Fair enough.
They definitely have pieces, like, computer-wise. If you're going to get ranked 20th on KenPom, I guess something had to happen, right? But, like, I just don't know if it's enough to overcome the deficiencies they've had the last couple of years.
I was all in on the making fun of Villanova during the transfer portal period there, back in the spring when everyone was like, what are they doing this? Like, Kyle Neptune has no clue and this roster stinks. I was in agreement upon all of that. But I don't think a lot of people saw they finished up the transfer portal pretty well. Like
Pretty
Luka
well.
Poplar is really good. Like, so I don't know. I like Villanova's team okay. They're not deep, but when have they ever been deep? The whole problem is Kyle Neptune, and that's a legitimate problem. So like, if anyone wants to pick them 8th, 9th, 10th is probably a bit too low, but 8th or 9th, like it's hard for me to argue against that because of Kyle Neptune. But yeah, I had him 7th.
The other thing, the kind of wild card here is Seton Hall. I don't think they'll finish 10th, which is where they were picked in the preseason. I don't think they'll finish 10th. But if you were to tell me they'd finish 9th or 8th, I'd be like, yeah, well, we just don't really know. We just don't really know. There's a whole lot of question marks there.
Yeah, Seton Hall to me is like I think they're not bad. I think they're going to look pretty good in non-conference play. I'm sure they'll be tough. He's got a much deeper roster, which suits his style of play more with the pressing and playing all out balls to the wall every second you're on the floor and like we'll run 10, 11 guys in and out of there. That's more what he wants to do. And he didn't have that option last year. So in that way, I think this roster fits him better. But I just look like every game they play, the opponent is going to have the best player on the court for sure. And maybe the best like 2 or 3 players on the court. And I just don't, even if you have a great system and you're really tough and you have great chemistry on your team, I don't know that they have enough to make up for it. And also I had Villanova at 6, not 7th, by the way.